need it to be pre-built where they can just take it off the shelf versus working with someone as who's trying to build their own content. So it's a balancing act for us. We're a team of 10 analysts. Let's see. This is our analytics page called Enrollment and Records. Everybody at ASU that has access to either student records in PeopleSoft or to student records in Data Warehouse has access automatically to this group of reports. FERPA is required for all of it because FERPA protected information is available on this page. The page that I'm showing is what you would see when you have access. So we've tried to group our reports in categories. Again, kind of like at the Lego store, you have Star Wars over here, you have Ninjago over there, and the Friends series in another part of the store. So we've tried to group it together so you can find what you're looking for. Anyone who doesn't have access will see this page, and this page tells them who can have access. Well, the live transcription is covering the page, but anyway, the page tells them who can have access and how access is granted. Basically, no one needs to request access to this group. They either already automatically have access or they can request access, and we've given the links right there to tell them how to do that. Also, our email address is on every single page here. So anytime someone runs one of these reports and they have a question about the data on it or why certain data is missing or anything like that, our email address is always there. Our number one report that is most widely distributed is our enrollment tracking reports. So that is one of the categories here. This is what that page looks like. So there's just always a quick thumbnail view of what the enrollment looks like right now for fall on the left and spring on the right. Then we have all of these reports. I've starred the ones that are most popular. We have term comparison reports. So we're comparing enrollment today with the same point in time last year. We do that with snapshots. We actually have 10 years worth of snapshots we could use that are available, but usually leadership wants just the current year compared to the last year. So all of these pre-built sets, again, are going to be that model. So the first most popular one is enrollment by college. It's not at the top because we didn't group them that way, but this report right here is student enrollment by college for the current term. And all that means is that's just, you're gonna get either the fall 2022 or spring 23. We're not comparing to anything in the past. So it's just the quick, what is the enrollment right now, not comparing it to anything. And the college report is exactly what it says. It's enrollment by college, and you can filter by department, division, and then all the way down to major and subplan. The other look is by campus. So that would be the 4 metropolitan campuses, ASU online, and then all of the locations, not just in the state, but around the world. So you can see enrollment that way as well. And at the bottom, we have these class funding reports, and these are classic, I'll call them. These are the classic reports, the same type of things we've been counting the same way we've been counting it for at least 20 or 30 years. So it's just counting head count by academic level, head count by credit hours, and then SCH is student credit hours, and that rolls up to FTE, which is the full-time equivalency. And all of these reports, you'll see a pattern here. There's a term comparison and then a current term for all of it. And then there's one by campus and one by college for all of it. So you can look however you want. There's a link at the bottom of the page to some training documentation, and that's another presentation that's going on right now in another room here. We do have some data sets that you can use Power Query to build your own version of any of these reports, yet still match out to the same university overall number. So this is what one of the reports looks like. It's crazy, isn't it? This is enrollment by campus. This is for fall. If you were to print this, you would need a magnifying glass to read that. But the good news is you can drill in as close as you want and see the numbers at whatever granularity you want. This is the report called Quick View. There are no parameters. You click the link and it runs this report. You can't change anything. It just is what it is, but it gives you the quick enrollment. You can also see how we normally count head count. We divide by undergraduate and graduate, and law is grouped with graduate. And then we identify who is new, who's a first-year student, who's a new transfer, who's a new non-degree. Then we identify who's continuing and returning, and we do similar for graduate students. And then within each of those categories, we count by resident, non-resident, and international. I'm sure you know why it impacts budget, because they're paying different tuition at those categories. So this is just a little bit zoomed in so that maybe you could actually read some of the numbers and words on there. And you can see in here that we are comparing fall 22 with fall 21 and then calculating the percent change. All of the reports that you can run from that site, except the one called Quick View, have these parameters. So you can pick what term you want to run it for and its current and future terms. And then you can drill in by, let's see, I'm going to make this go away. You can drill in by session, campus type, campus location. So the difference there is the campus type is either campus immersion, online, or a location. But then once you select that, you can actually select a specific location like Poly or Lake Havasu or whatever you're interested in. And then you see college. Once you pick college, the options you have for division change. And once you pick a division, the options you have for department will change. These are cascading filters. So the more filters you do, the smaller your selection is for the next filter. So that was enrollment tracking. That's all I have time to go into, but there are a lot of other presentations today and tomorrow about the enrollment tracking data sets and how you can build your own report if you want with that. So back to the main page, the next group of reports is students. And again, this is the whole list, but I'm going to point out some of the more popular reports. Because my team has so little time to spend on reports and we are reliant on providing canned reports for those who need them, we've tried to organize them this way so that you can find what you need. We've tried to make it intuitive so that you can find a report, but it might not be intuitive to everyone. It might just make sense to us. We're hoping that someday soon, the global search and analytics would let you search for actual keywords and tags that are here. We've put in the metadata. With that, if you can't find a report and you're sure it must be here, you can email us and ask us and we'll point you to the right one. But my main point here is we don't send lists to people. If someone asks for, I need a list of students that are at Lake Havasu in this major, and I only want freshmen, we don't send the list back. We say, oh, here's 3 reports on this page. You can run all 3 of them and see which one you like the best. Because that way we're teaching everybody else how to get the data they want when they need it without waiting on us to have to generate it and send it back. We do spend a lot of time though answering questions about the data. So if someone wants to know, how do I find Lake Havasu, or how do I find this major, or how do I find, I don't know, whatever it is they're looking for, we'll spend the time actually helping you learn how to do that so that you can do it yourself. So these are our most popular reports. People are constantly running. We check the usage rates regularly, and these are just always the most popular student lists. These are lists. This will have the student's name and ID number, and then all sorts of other relevant information about them, depending on what the purpose of the report was. So some of these are intended to be mailing lists. The general student list up at the top, that's an enrolled student mailing list. So you need to mail out postcards for an event your college is having, you can use that report. We also have students by major as of today, and that would let someone get a list of students in a major, whether they're registered or not. They don't have to be enrolled. They could be admitted for the future, but they're already in that program. So that's a pretty big list as well. We have other reports that academic units use when they're trying to analyze what's going on with enrollment within their department or their major. So these different lists have very similar data on them, but the parameters that you select when you run them are slightly different so that you can narrow in on the population you want. This one down here in the bottom left, enrolled students data for retention, is a pretty popular one that will list every undergraduate student and every data point that's been considered relevant over the last 10 years about their success and ability to register for the next semester. This is our #1 student list report. And you'll probably understand why. This is called the Class Roster Faculty Center. That's a really old name. This report was built because academic units running the class roster in PeopleSoft wanted a better way to run, let's say, all of the rosters for English 101 at once, or something like that. So what we did was we recreated it here in analytics, and you can run it however you want. This does list every class every class, and then if students are enrolled, you see all of the students that are in that class. So it has their EMPL ID. If they have been graded, you'll see their grades there as well. So we started calling this, instead of Class Roster Faculty Center, we started calling it Students and Classes, because that's really what it is. And there is a data set, again, available for you to use in Power Query if you want. And it has the same data. So you can either run it here in Analytics easy or create your own report. There's a lot of fields on this report. Just scrolling to the right, here you've got the student's program and plan, their academic level, their email address. So all of that information is in that one report. And here what I'm showing you is in all of our reports that we've published in the analytics site, we have populated the metadata that you see at the top of the report when you click on details. So at the very least, this is where you can find our email address. It's always there as well. But over on the right, we took a lot of time documenting each report, listing what tables are in it, what is the fixed criteria, so are deceased students excluded from this list? Things like that, you should be able to answer for yourself right here in the details. We also list all of the fields in which table we pulled them from. Again, trying to help so that if you wanted to decide if this is the right information for what you need, you have that information available. So here's one of the other reports I mentioned. It's called Students by Major as of today, and it's the report that you could run. It will list all of the students in the major, even if they're future admit, even if they're not registered. And it has so much information about all of them. It has their name, their major, their subplan, their plan, whether they've applied to graduate, has their NRC, so new, continuing, and returning. Has their GPA, their credit hours, how many hours they're enrolled in, all sorts of cum stats. So their total credit hours, their semester credit hours, their academic level, all of that. If they are term activated, those fields are populated. The blank lines that you see are for students that are not term activated, so they don't have any term statistics at all. And then, of course, all of their contact information. So you see this report could be used, it could be filtered to whatever population someone needs for something, and then an email could go out or whatever is going to be done with them. It also has their phone numbers. All right, next is courses and classes. So we're also responsible for the course catalog and some of the schedule of classes. My team is responsible for the schedule of classes so far as can students register for classes and get their grades. There's another team that's responsible for classroom scheduling, and that's not us. So everything that's not related to where the class is meeting is our team. So here we have some reports for the course catalog. We have one that's almost ready to publish that would let you run the course catalog for a prior term. It will be called Course Catalog by Term. So you could go back in time and run it for what was in the catalog last fall, for example. Right now, it only lets you run it for the future term. So we need to pull in the data for the prior terms. This is also used by a lot of people who do curriculum management to look at course topics. There's policies around special topic courses and when they can be established as a permanent course. And so these are very popular because people are checking on history of those topic courses. And then here's all the schedule of classes. We also have some reports that would let you look at all of the ASU classes a student took based on what major they're in right now. So it's kind of like their ASU transcript. You can run it by their current major, their major in the past, or classes that they took while they were in a major. And then this class roster faculty center is the same report we just looked at on the other page, but we couldn't decide which page anyone would want to look for it. So we just put the link on both pages. It's the same report though. Down at the bottom, we did put some links to our friends in classroom scheduling. I just said that we don't really have any insight into classroom scheduling or facilities. They are the experts for that. So we just linked directly to their site right here. You can get all of their reports from there. Next is graduation. That's what we're all here for, right? So we have a lot of graduation reports, and these get really popular, especially in December and May. The most popular report is students applied to graduate by term. That does exactly what it says. It's going to give you a list of who has applied to graduate. It can be used to schedule events or invite people for events, select someone to speak at the event. All of those things that report is used for. Academic units sometimes use it to identify students who applied to graduate but are probably not going to because there's an issue they need to take care of still. So there's enough information on the report that would tell an academic advisor at a high level how many students might not be meeting either credit hour or GPA requirements. It doesn't go into the detail that DARS does, but it's just a high level indicator where there might be issues. There's also reports you can run for students that have degrees awarded by term and plan code. Those are complete data sets back to 1980. It does include some students that graduated before 1980 as we convert their records to PeopleSoft. But both of those you could run to get everyone who graduated with a particular major. And last is end of term processing. And these are the kinds of things that are not quite as joyful and exciting. The most critical one here is missing grades. And those are students that have federal financial aid that might have to be paid back if their grade isn't posted on time. And so we spend a lot of time contacting academic units and asking them to run these reports to make sure that the students that have aid have their grades posted on time. We also have just classes with grades not posted for everybody. Everybody needs their grades, even if they don't have federal financial aid. Up at the top, we also have academic standing, and that's students that are on probation, warning, or disqualification. And right here in the center of the page, because it's alphabetical, we have the students on Dean's List. The next set of reports is codes and descriptions. These are lists you can run to get all the student group codes and what they're used for. It has all the descriptions all in a list. And the same thing with service indicators. Service indicators are usually considered a hold. They're not all holds. So this report will tell you if the service indicator has some sort of an impact, if it's going to block registration or block transcripts, or is it just an information, a task that someone wants the student to do. The service indicators show in my ASU as a task or a to-do. So sometimes it's useful to be able to look up what the description is for all of those. And then all of these other reports are about academic plan codes. So those are called majors or programs. You can list all the plan codes, how many students are in them, who are the students. And last is our trainings page. So if you click on that link, here is the 3 sets of trainings that we've done, recordings and written out job aids for how you can use the data for something like a Power Query or whatever you want to do with it. So we have the schedule of classes, we have the students and classes, also known as the class roster, and then we have enrollment tracking, and we do have a few more that are coming soon. So there's these recordings. The enrollment tracking recording, I think, is about 45 minutes. But then the page link takes you to the instructions that you need, in order to find the data set to connect to and all of that. So those are all of our pre-built reports. Those are all the reports that you can just take off the shelf exactly the way they are. But a lot of times you need something just a little bit different. Maybe you need to add something to it or take something away from it. So what we'll do first, if someone needs that, is we will see if there is a pre-built report that has everything you need, maybe a little bit more. And we'll give you instructions how to run it, how to export it, maybe modify or filter it in Excel. We've sent instructions how to do VLOOKUPs, how to use Power Query to merge 2 data sets. If you need to, maybe let's say once a week, you need to do something and there isn't a report, but there's 2 reports. You don't want to have to do it manually every time. So we do have instructions for how to do that with Power Query. If instead the report is missing something you need, we would try to prioritize adding that for you. But due to time constraints, we can't always do that. So if we can give you some pointers, some helps along the way, we will. We've sent out our queries, we've sent out SQL, we've sent out the actual query files to people who wanted it so they could pick it up and just tweak it just a little bit. Like I was saying, the Lego set has almost everything you need, but you want to add something else to it, maybe some trees, I don't know. So we try to help you get that. So most of what we do is either going to be a report builder file, the straight SQL. We do have some Hyperion Studio queries and Alteryx. And wow, I went through that really fast. So comments or questions? I'm going to see what's in this chat. Yes.
One question, I don't know if I was just missing it when I've tried before to play with the data on students by major. I couldn't find whether they were an online campus or campus-based.
Okay.
Do you think should that be in there,
It depends on your definition of whether they're online or campus-based. The report definitely has their campus. So if they're an official ASU online student, that's online in that report. However, we do have a lot of students taking iCourses, and that's not visible in that report. They would look like a Tempe student. You'd have no way to know that they're all online. We have ASU Sync now as well. So there's a small population in that report. Instead of online or Tempe, you're going to see Sync as their campus. And again, that doesn't mean they're taking everything through Sync. They could actually be driving to campus some days too. So that's what I meant by it depends on your definition. Thank you. Is there anything else you've noticed about one of these reports that you want to know more about? That's a very good question. The actual enrollment tracking report is only their primary major. However, the data output could include the non-primary majors. However, right now, when we've experimented with attaching that to a report and refreshing it, it's taking far too long. So we're trying. I mean, technically you could try building one and the fields are there, but I don't think it's a good experience. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Let me just check once more for questions online. That's all I have for today. So I guess you'll all get to go to lunch on time. I do have another presentation at 1 that is about the student profile table, which is the basis of enrollment tracking and most of those student list reports, where we go into the primary and non-primary flags and some other things like that. So if you're not doing anything better at 1, I hope you come back and see me then. Thank you. I appreciate it, everybody.